Love in the Fast Lane, Chapter 10. Chelsea's thumbs flew across her phone screen, the backlight illuminating the fierce concentration on her face. The interior of the SUV was a sanctuary of dark leather and tinted glass, insulating them from the lingering chaos of the track. But the silence was heavy, pressurized. Trey sat in the middle seat, his leg pressed against Sam's. He hadn't let go of her hand since they fled the media center. The adrenaline of the win was fading, replaced by the heavy, boneless exhaustion that followed a 4-hour race. But his thumb kept brushing the back of her knuckles, a rhythmic, grounding motion. "Flights arranged for tomorrow morning," Chelsea announced without looking up. "Private charter out of Alliance. It's cleaner. No TSA lines, no cell phone cameras." "I can fly commercial," Sam said, her voice sounding small in the quiet cabin. "I have a return ticket." "You really can't." Chelsea finally looked up, her expression softening just a fraction. "Not right now. By tomorrow morning, your face will be on every gossip site from here to Los Angeles. Commercial is a gauntlet you aren't ready for." Trey squeezed Sam's hand. "Take the jet, Sam, please, for my peace of mind." She looked at him. The sweat had dried in salt streaks on his neck. His eyes were red-rimmed, but still held that terrifyingly open look he saved just for her. He looked like a man who had won the lottery and was terrified he had lost the ticket. "Okay," Sam whispered. "The jet." The drop-off at the hotel was a blur of security details and back corridors. Trey kissed her at the door of her room, a desperate, lingering thing that tasted of unspoken apologies, before Chelsea dragged him away to handle the sponsors who couldn't be ignored. Sam slept fitfully, waking every hour to check a phone she had turned off. When the sun finally broke over the Texas horizon, she felt like she hadn't slept at all. The flight back to Raleigh was silent. She sat in a leather armchair in a cabin that smelled of expensive sanitizer and old money, watching the cloud layer drift by. She tried to analyze the lift coefficients of the wing, tried to calculate the fuel consumption based on the engine pitch, anything to keep her brain from replaying the way Trey looked at her in Victory Lane. She landed at ORDU just before noon. A driver, another Stockton expense, was waiting. He drove her to her townhouse. Now, pulling up to the curb, she saw a car idling near the entrance that she didn't recognize. The driver watched her get out. Sam hurried up the stairs, keys fumbling in her hand, and locked the deadbolt behind her. The silence of her place usually brought relief. Today, it felt like a trap. She dropped her bag, kicked off the expensive wedgings she'd been wearing for 24 hours, and stood in the middle of her living room. It looked exactly as she had left it. Coffee mug in the sink, autocross rulebook on the coffee table. But the air felt different, thinner. She needed to go to work tomorrow. She needed to be Sam Kirby's systems analyst, not Sam, the mystery girl in the fire suit. Against your better judgment, against every instinct that screamed, "Don't look!" she pulled her phone from her purse and powered it on. It vibrated and vibrated and kept vibrating, a solid minute of haptic buzzing against her palm. Notifications cascaded down the screen in a waterfall of pixels. Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, text messages from numbers she didn't know, messages from people she hadn't spoken to in high school. She sat on the edge of her sofa, her chest constricting. Trending. Victory Lane kiss. Trey Stockton. Mystery girl. She tapped the Twitter icon. It was a mistake. Finally found her. Samantha Kirby, engineer from Raleigh. Looks like she calculated the exact angle to trap a millionaire. Another
pit lizard jumping on the bandwagon. Give it 2 months before the sponsorship deal drops. She looks bored in the photos. Is she even happy he won? Or just happy the check cleared? She scrolled, her breath becoming shallow, quick hitches in her throat. They had photos. Not just from the race. They had photos from her autocross club's public Facebook page. Photos of Stella. Photos of her in her grease-stained coveralls. The Garage Groupie, one headline from a sports gossip blog read, "Who is the mechanic stealing Stockton's focus?" The article was worse than the headline. It dissected her outfit, ill-fitting fire suit, clearly a walk of shame situation, and speculated on her motives. They questioned her job. They questioned her car. One common thread was devoted entirely to debating whether her nose was crooked. It was a deluge of acid. She threw the phone onto the cushion beside her as if it had burned her. She was an engineer. She dealt in facts, in concrete variables, in problems that had solutions. If a suspension geometry was off, you adjusted the control arms. If code failed, you debugged it. You couldn't debug 40 million people deciding you were a villain. She curled her knees to her chest, wrapping her arms around her shins. The silence of the apartment was broken by the sudden, sharp chiming of her phone again and again. She was growing nauseous. The privacy she had curated so carefully, the quiet life of work, cars, and solitude, had been detonated. Sleep was impossible that night. She lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to the phantom sounds of notification pings. Tuesday morning arrived with a gray, suffocating drizzle. Sam dressed in her standard office attire, slacks, a blouse, sensible flats. Armor. She pulled her hair back into the severe French twist she wore for board meetings. Walking into her office building felt like walking onto a stage that she hadn't learned the lines. The security guard, usually a gruff man who offered a nod and nothing else, stared at her. His eyes lingered a second too long. "Good morning, Miss Kirby." The tone was different, knowing. "Morning, Frank." She kept her head down, marching towards the elevators. The ride up was agonizing. 2 women from HR were whispering in the corner. When Sam stepped in, the whispering stopped abruptly. The silence that followed was loud enough to scream. She made it to her cubicle. Melissa, her cube-mate, was already there. Melissa, who usually greeted her with a recap of her weekend dating disasters, spun around in her chair. Her eyes were wide. "Sam?" Mizzle hissed. "Is it true?" Sam dropped her bag on the desk. "Is what true? The internet? Trey Stockton? You?" She pointed to her computer screen. It was open to a tabloid site. There was a grainy photo of Sam and Trey at the dinner, taken through the window by a paparazzi lens. "You told me new guy. You didn't tell me national icon, sports god." "He's just a guy, Melissa." "He's not just a guy. He's Trey Stockton." And Melissa hesitated, her expression twisting into something pitying. "Have you seen what they're writing? Someone on Reddit found your old university thesis. They're mocking your analysis of fluid dynamics, Sam. Who does that?" Sam felt the blood drain from her face. "They found my thesis? And your address," Melissa whispered. "Security had to turn away a photographer in the lobby 10 minutes ago."
Sam stood up. The walls of the cubicle, usually gray and comforting, felt like they were closing in. "I can't be here," Sam said. I have to go." "Sam, wait. The team lead wants to see you regarding potential distractions." "Tell him I'm sick.
Tell him I have the plague." Sam grabbed her bag and ran. She didn't wait for the elevator. She took the stairs, 4 flights down, her flats slapping against the concrete. She drove aimlessly for an hour, terrified that if she went home, someone would be waiting. She ended up in a grocery store parking lot 3 towns over, engine idling, staring at the rains lighting down the windshield. The phone rang. Trey. His face appeared on the contact screen, smiling, unaware. Sam stared at it. She wanted to answer. She wanted to hear his voice, the one that talked about spring rates and tire pressures. She wanted the connection that had felt so electric and real in the darkness of the garage. But looking at his face just reminded her of the article calling her the garage groupie. She let it go to voicemail. He called again 5 minutes later, then a text. "Checking in. Chelsea said you made it back. Call me." Sam drove home. There was no photographer, thankfully, but she parked Stella around the back anyway, covering the car with a tarp she usually saved for winter storage. Inside, she paced. The engineering part of her brain was trying to build a logic tree, trying to find a path through the mess. Option A, ignore it. Result, unlikely to work, given the escalation. Option B, embrace it. Result, loss of privacy, loss of professional credibility, complete absorption into his world. Option C, end it. Result, return to normalcy. Loss of Trey. The logic tree broke when she reached option C. The thought of losing him. The midnight calls, the shared language of mechanics, the way he looked at her like she was the only real thing in a fake world made her ache. But she couldn't be the woman on the arm. She couldn't be the mystery brunette. She was Sam Kirby. She built systems. She raced cars. She didn't perform for cameras. The phone rang again. She picked it up this time. "Hey." Trey's voice was warm, relaxed. Background noise of impact, wrenches, and shouting suggesting he was at the shop. "You're harder to reach than a crew chief during a pit stop. You okay?" No, I'm not okay, Trey." The background noise on his end cut out instantly. He must have stepped into an office or a hallway. "What happened? Are you hurt?" "No, not hurt, just exposed." She took a breath, listening to the hum of her refrigerator, the sound of her normal, quiet life. "Have you seen the internet today?" "I stay off it. Chelsea handles that stuff." "Why? Is it bad?" He didn't know. Of course he didn't know. He lived in a bubble of protection, filtered by managers and PR reps. "They found my thesis, Trey. Strangers are mocking my fluid dynamics research on Reddit. They found my high school yearbook photo. They're calling me a garage groupie who's trying to secure a sponsorship through sexual favors." "What?" His voice dropped, the warmth replaced by a hard, metallic edge. "Sam, that's garbage. Don't read it." "I can't not read it when my coworkers are reading it off their screens when I walk in. Security had to chase a photographer away from my office lobby." "I'll handle it," Trey said immediately, the problem solver kicking in. "I'll put out a statement. I'll tell them to back off. Chelsea can get the legal team to issue cease and desist if they're harassing you at work." "It's not a legal problem, Trey. It's a life problem." She closed her eyes, pressing the heels of her hands against her eyelids until she saw stars. "This is your life. The cameras, the scrutiny, the circus. You're built for it. You had years to build the armor. You don't need armor. You just need to ignore them. It blows over. The news cycle moves fast." "It's not blowing over for me. My boss wants to talk to me about distractions. My privacy is gone. I'm systems engineering, Trey. Precision, control, stability. This is chaos." "We can fix this," he insisted. "Come back to Charlotte. Stay at the late house for a few days until it calms down. You can bring Stella. We'll work on the cars, just us." The offer hung there, tempting and sweet. To hide away in his fortress, to let him protect me. If I run to you, I prove them right. I become the girl who needs rescuing, the gropey. Sam, that's not... Trey, listen to me. Her voice cracked. She swallowed hard, forcing the steel back into her spine. I care about you. God, I haven't felt like this about anyone in... maybe ever. When we're in the garage or talking about setups, it makes sense. It feels perfect. It is perfect. So let's figure it out. I don't know how, Trey, I admitted, the tears finally spilling over, hot tracks down her cheeks. I don't know how to be an engineer and the doting girlfriend of a professional stock car driver. I don't know how to look at my phone and see thousands of people hating me just because you held my hand. I'm not cut out for the spotlight, Trey. I race in parking lots with clowns. I don't belong in Victory Lane. You belong where you want to be. I want you with me. And I want to be with you. But the price tag is too high right now. I can't pay it. She gripped the phone tight. I need time, Trey. I need to process this. I need to figure out if I can even exist in your world without losing myself. Silence stretched on the lion. She could hear him breathing, a heavy, jagged sound. Are you breaking up with me? He asked, his voice devoid of the confidence that usually defined him. I'm asking you to let me breathe, Sam said. Please, just don't fix this. Don't send the jet. Don't issue a statement. Just let me be Sam Kirby for a while. I need to see if she still exists.